Hello and welcome to the SmackDown review. I'm Michael Hamflett from WhatCulture, and I'm joined by Michael Sidgwick from WhatCulture to discuss everything that happened on Friday's edition of the show. But first, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to listen to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. For wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only discuss SmackDown, but also Raw, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We also have wrestler interviews, roundtables, and roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. Sidge, you didn't even need to buy a ticket. This trip to the pictures were free. Let's talk about Friday Night SmackDown. Welcome to SmackDown.
I don't want to say it now.
Absolutely ideal. General overall takes on the old exec-produced work of Levesque and Fitting?
Tell you what, right? I tell no lies. So I cannot tell a lie. There was a moment on this show that electrified me.
I can't even guess which one of the many that could be. And what? And otherwise, just it was SmackDown, yeah.
Yeah, that's one moment that totally electrified me, and I was like, what? I do hate the Bloodline.
Right.
I think it is kind of slop. I think it is...
Caviar slops, doesn't it, when you serve it? I know that about food.
I generally think it used to be an idiot plot. It's not that anymore. Now it is mere soap opera, the sheer length of which and the ability to go long delights people for some godforsaken reason, especially when they should know better and do, in fact, watch other mediums like you. Mm-hmm. However... in fact, there were two moments on this where I'm like, do I get it?
Oh, yeah.
Do I kind of get some of the characters?
Oh, I didn't even think it was going to be Bloodline-based.
And I was like, do I think one of these bits was goated? Yeah, honestly, there's a bit on here, and I'm like, I want to see that match, and I think that guy's cool.
Wow. I can't wait to get into this.
There's a caveat, though.
There's always a caveat. So we open with the usual thing about everybody getting to work, including the ginormous, disgusting Saudi Arabia belt, which now gets its own intro entrance and would feature part of Cody Rhodes' promo later on. But we start proper with the Bloodline. They come to the ring, and Solo is once again asking for acknowledgement. He wants to sort of galvanize leadership following his dominance over Roman and Jimmy last week.
Doesn't he lose all the time on pay-per-view, on PLE?
He kind of does, but then he kicks ass on TV, so it's like score draw for Solo at the moment. Maybe that's why he has to still ask for acknowledgement rather than simply getting it. They're playing, I guess since Roman came back especially, the fact that he's a total fraud is now...
canon,
yeah. It's in kayfabe as well as reality. So I think that's how they're kind of getting away with it. He talks about how he's made the family bigger and stronger, and he knows Roman's going to be here tonight, but he's not fussed about any of that. And then he goes on to start talking about Jimmy and says how the violence that took you out will take you out again, and it'll carry on until Roman Reigns acknowledges me. So he's kind of like... put the threat out there, and then Jey Uso's music hits. Sidge, we couldn't have imagined this on Monday when he just...
I would never have thought about it to imagine it.
Because Jimmy asked him, and he said no, didn't he? So obviously he thought, I'm going to have to go take business into my own hands here. Not because he was asked, but because he wanted to confront his little brother and find out exactly what's going on. And he gets an absolute monster response. Of course he does. He says he's not here to fight, but he just hates what's become of Solo Sikoa in this role. He's seen all this stuff happen before. He's seen the damage it can do to the family, and he doesn't know why he's doing it. Says he's just dividing the family up. He's been able to go off on his own, and now obviously he's the Intercontinental Champion, massive star and everything. Fighting over the Ula Fala isn't the way. It only corrupts, as all of this power has done over the years in this family. Solo claims he's not trying to divide the family. He wants to unite them, but he wants to unite them under acknowledging him. And then Jey Uso says, look, if you're trying to unite the family, why have you brought them in? And he's pointing at the Tongans, and especially Jacob Fatu. He makes this little reference, like, why have you brought the Tongans in? Like, why have you dealt with Jacob Fatu? We don't deal with Jacob Fatu. Referencing this idea that he's this known terror in the family. And then even says, and look, if he keeps looking at me, I'm going to kick his ass. So he kind of like, Jacob Fatu gets all sort of bored up all of a second. Solo holds him back. And Jay says the next time he sees him, if things are still like this, it will be different and there will be a fight, but he wants to see Solo change. Jay leaves, and then obviously Solo kind of holds Jacob and the Tongans back from Jey Uso to now. We'll see more of Jey Uso in a little bit. What did you make of all of this?
Square the circle for me.
I thought you were doing charades and saying it was a film.
Square the circle for me. Jey Uso,
Yeah.
who is now estranged from Jimmy and Roman, is asking Solo to be a better family man and unite the family instead of tearing them apart.
Yes, he. Well, we don't know where he sits with Jimmy currently because he didn't deck him when Jimmy went to Raw. He just chose not to help ultimately. But he, I think, is trying to make the point. Like, obviously, he sees what Jimmy and Roman do, and then he probably doesn't want. Well, we're going to get to it in a minute. He doesn't really want any of that either. He doesn't believe violence between the family members is the way forward, having lived through so much of it himself.
So he just wants it all to be amenable, but no closeness.
Yeah, unity, but without killing each other, I guess. I would assume.
He doesn't want to be mates with them, though. He doesn't want to be family.
Not after everything that's happened.
So I don't know what he's talking about.
It's
I will say
a lot of water that's got to travel under that bridge still.
Yeah.
Bridge labelled yeet.
Yeah. So I don't understand why he's agonizing over the family situation and the division within the family when he himself does not want to be united with the family.
Yes.
So I don't really get that,
Okay.
personally. Maybe I've missed too many episodes of SmackDown. So there's that. There's also the fact that this happened and something else happened on the same show was a bit silly, but we'll get to why that is when we get to the other thing. There's two things on the show that I don't think should have happened on the same week.
Okay.
But we'll get to that. When Jey Uso, badass, standing alone in front of this group of delinquent family members who could kick his ass if they wanted. It's just this awesome bit of posturing from Jey Uso in the way when he's getting himself riled up. It's like, why did he have to go with Jacob? Like, there's a reason why.
It's like they keep the cage door locked, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
something.
he's
really
that much of a
picture,
literal savage. And he goes like, and he's like, his voice starts to build and build and build. And he goes, what do you even have to get Jacob for? There's a reason. And he starts to get that bass in his voice. There's a reason why we don't mess with Jacob. And then just without breaking. And if he didn't stop staring at me, I'm going to kick his ass. I can't believe how much I exploded.
Yeah.
I exploded. And Jacob Fatu's facial expressions are absolutely phenomenal. Like that little head tilt. Why don't you take notes, Glenn Jacobs? If you want to be scary by tilting your head, that's how you do it. Jacob Fatu's incredible face. He was like, what did you say to me? With my bare hands, I will kill you. I will kill you with my bare hands. And then the whole, I want to see that match. I want to see a match involving Jey Uso. This must be phenomenal.
I would make an argument, I feel like Wilborn would argue me down, that main event, from all we talk about like main event Jey Uso, no, the singles title was always realistically going to be something like the Intercontinental rather than the World. On this SmackDown, they did a very effective job, and we'll get to it a bit later on, of making Jey Uso feel actually on the same level as Roman Reigns. It's quite nice that he becomes main event Jey Uso in the presence of Roman Reigns' show and everything like that. They felt on the same level, which I thought that's an achievement, really.
Similar levels, but yeah, considering where the story was and how everything that's happened that's led us to this point, yes, I'll agree. But I thought Jey Uso's promo delivery was absolutely outstanding. I understand why now people do the yeet.
Yeet.
Indeed.
Makes it feel good.
I didn't understand it until Saturday morning when I watched it, but now I was like, I'd run through a wall for that.
Kids, get in here. Yeet. We're a Yeet family now.
We're not a Yeet family. But I thought this was phenomenally effective, if a little bit. I just questioned some of the logic, and my questions got a little bit more pedantic as the show unfolded, but we'll get to it.
I think we're going to agree on some of that. Some of this felt a bit speedrunny for my liking as well. In terms of Kane and Jacob Fatu, like Kane's got some of Jacob's mannerisms down because Jacob loves that I love you, Solo, and Kane kind of does that towards Donald Trump in that TikTok.
Yes.
I love you, Donald.
I don't like the I love you Solo stuff.
I do.
But you love everything.
I do love everything. I like it because the they are yet again setting up a thing that can be torn away when those two come apart, which is nice. And it's like Jacob's only kryptonite is that he worships this complete loser.
I know.
Like that, I think that works as like oh Christ, the most dangerous. It's very sort of old-fashioned movie monster that's eventually going to turn on the evil boss.
Yes.
You know, like the Frankenstein.
I don't know why he has such faith in Solo. Maybe the idea of no one would have touched Jacob Fatu with that reputation that he's got.
Yeah.
With how he cannot open that box. Cannot open that cage door, as you put it. Maybe that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be generous and headcanon-y. Because Roman never thought to bring him into the bloodline.
There was this red line. Like, do not cross. Fatu, yeah. So Solo's done that, and we know he's done it for his own power. But and the turn. That's the thing with the bloodline. You're always like, well, who's turned on who? When's that going to be goated? And that's another one.
It's Coronation Street.
That's correct. Coronation Yeet. The first match up.
So you agree? It's not cinema. It's soap opera.
It's all of the above.
Okay.
It's a multimedia.
Shut up, man. You're such a dick.
Right, there's 2 triple threat tag
such
matches
a complete dick.
on this card. Winners get a title shot. Obviously, there's one set up later on featuring the Motor City Machine Guns. They completely binned the idea of the MCMGs being mystery opponents. So this is the first one setting up for the bigger one later.
Or indeed over.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
They
were over in my house, but I couldn't shout loud enough to make that SmackDown crowd cheer up.
Yeah.
Never seen them, have they? That's the problem. But this was DIY versus Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits. It started off where Pretty Deadly, as the kind of cartoon heels, were just basically trying to cheat their way into. They dodged it at first completely, didn't want to wrestle. It's that stupid rule where you've got one from each team in the ring at all times. So Pretty Deadly were constantly trying to avoid the action.
Everything breaks down in the end.
Sure does. And then try and steal an opportunity to get the win. DIY and the Street Profits over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks, in their belief that they are the best of the rest in the tag division and not being able to get a shot at the titles, have started to kind of turn inwards on each other. And I think what we saw here was the progression of that, and maybe DIY into turning heel, because ultimately it is just a spot fest. I can never do the sort of rundowns justice like Wilborn can, but you are just watching moves. And truthfully, I wouldn't even consider it's very good agenting, because you've got a match later on where the Motor City Machine Guns do moves and do them really well.
And you want them to stand out.
And that should have been the moves match. So yeah, this was good action, but maybe not the right night for good action, if that's a fair criticism maybe. Ultimately, we get to a finish where, let me get this right, so Dawkins and Ford get Elton Prince with that blockbuster doomsday device. Meanwhile, Kit Wilson gets hit with the meat in the middle by a DIY, and because he's the legal man, as the referee's counting 3, Montez Ford believes that he's won for the Street Profits. Turns out DIY have won the match, and after the fact, the Street Profits are pissed off, somewhat rightfully so, because it's all quick tags and there's 3 in the ring at any given time. But DIY are kind of shoving them off to the side, saying, we're the winners. And then to sort of jump forward a little bit, later on, obviously, the surprise alignment of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell as heels with Nia Jax makes me wonder if all of them collectively are just turning heel to try and shore up that SmackDown tag division, because it ain't so great.
There were some moves in this 8-minute match, and that I'll never remember as long as I live. But, the pace was quite breakneck. I didn't get bored. I wasn't dazzled. I wasn't going up a height. But, I wasn't bored. I was like, some moves. Some more moves, and you're ordering the moves in an order that builds them. I think I made.
Is that where we're at
on the Sidgwick describes matches using unintelligible noises? My rating was. Is it generous to say that Montez Ford doesn't look like a moron for thinking he's won the match? Which in and of itself isn't a terrible way of advancing that so close yet so far arc that they're on currently.
About 5 years at this point.
Yeah. Is it too generous to say, well, it was pretty breakneck in there, lots of activity.
Yeah.
So much so that he was probably okay in thinking he was a legal man.
That's what they were trying to do, as I say, because Pretty Deadly have been so slippery throughout. The idea was, well, you finally got your hands on one of them, it must be the legal one. Bad luck sort of thing, but I think as well there's probably something to this where DIY as heels, theoretically, I don't know, in 2024 if all 4 of them are capable, as good as they are and as occasionally great as they are, the Motor City Machine Guns DIY with DIY leaning heel is the one of the better chances you've got of establishing the Guns right out the gate as the team to beat.
Yeah.
I guess. Maybe not to get the shot straight away, because then that would probably involve them losing to the Bloodline. Maybe not. Maybe he just wants to rocket strap them or something. But I think that's possibly why they've seen that match as the option for right now. Street Profits, continuing not to win. You kind of have to keep your fingers crossed this is a story rather than, oh, they just lost again.
Yep. Or they just Levesqued it.
Yeah. You just don't know. What have we got next? So Bayley and Bayley and Bayley and Naomi versus Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton is announced, but that's going to change shortly. We'll get to that because back to the Odeon we go. Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso have arrived.
Back to the cobbles.
Walking. Well, I mean,
is that what it's called?
Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Half of these segments going with the EastEnders, duff. So it's that dramatic, and you're waiting for the next development. They're walking out a corridor and they bump into Jey Uso, who's of course going in the opposite direction. Jey and Roman kind of awkwardly glare at each other. Jey and Jimmy seem a little bit more on the level, not friends, but Roman stops Jey from leaving as Jey just tries to walk past, and he tells Jey he's proud of him and the whole family are proud of him. This is obviously a kind of a big moment considering where we're at with these two a little while ago. Jey kind of looks him up and down and then simply goes, "No yeet."
No yeet.
And goes to leave. Roman says to Jimmy, "Look, I told you. Anyway, we've got business to do." They walk off. Jimmy seems disappointed that this wasn't the reunion he was hoping for.
This was... I get it. If you're Jey, what I like about this is Roman comes back and the story is he's not done a damn thing, but hiatus plus star power equals babyface.
Yeah.
Regardless of the behavior and the conduct of the character and what have you. And in the meantime, there's a heel bloodline making them the de facto, the OG bloodline. Oh, they're the babyfaces because they're not the heels. I like the idea that they've tried to create this scenario in which Roman has to sort of prove himself to not be a complete piece of crap.
Yeah.
And they're building the fact that, oh no, he might be a decent dude, he might have learned the error of his ways.
He's doing his face muscle thing because he's kind of says sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
And then he sort of, is sort of where he was looking in the main event, proves, are his priorities actually right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he going for the wrong thing again?
Yeah.
So I do like the idea of it's a little bit more sophisticated than, Roman's back and it's time for him to be a babyface and it's heels now, so he's just going to be the babyface. It's a bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah. And it's this time of year, so they're all, like Triple H is, the matches don't always deliver, always, ever. But he knows his way around building a War Games. Like, there's been a couple of times where they've had that, like, not quite the Nexus Team WWE shaky cam moment, but when the stables finally come together, as you imagine these will. Maybe not even as, like, friends, but Jey Uso just doing the right thing as we get into that maybe 2 or 3 weeks out from War Games. I expect that to be red hot. It's like those last moments that people coming together. That's the stuff. Like those of us that are into this, fantasy booking it since WrestleMania, basically. We go to Nia Jax next. She's on the phone to Tiffany Stratton, who's ill, so can't make it to SmackDown. So she hasn't got a partner, so she believes the tag team match can't go ahead. SmackDown GM, can't remember his name, says that she should get another partner. No, you hate that. But Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell walk in.
What have they been doing? I've missed a few SmackDowns by accident.
Nothing. Absolutely jack. They've been doing bits on Twitter because Candice LeRae won the Speed title. No, but it's, when does 4U ever give you something you actually want to see? So yeah, like she's won the Speed title and now they do bits where Candice LeRae takes ages to do something. Indy Hartwell does it really quickly. But guess which one's the champion? It's really, really funny. So they volunteer their services.
Indy Hartwell in a Speed match is a rib, is it not?
Yeah, it's... I mean, fair play to them. You're glad it's quick.
Really?
Anyway, they volunteer their services.
Speed is a state of mind.
Candice LeRae
It's not a unit of time, it's a state of mind.
Offers to be a partner. We're going to get the match a bit later on. Lash Legend and Piper Niven next. This is all kind of a hangover from Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson losing to the tag team champions, but making a good impression, returning back on Raw. So you've got Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair in the crowd watching this one. Ultimately, what this is all about is Lash Legend surprising Piper Niven with a power game. It's just not hot in the building. These characters, this women's division is better on SmackDown, considering there's actually, up until recently, there's less TV time to use, but there's more women featured on SmackDown than Raw in programs that are not necessarily to do with the title. But ultimately, I think Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson being so new to this, the fans haven't yet kind of made their mind up. But maybe they will after this, because ultimately, what we had here was like Lash Legend getting to use like the big like sort of pump kicks and power moves she does. Piper Niven fought back with like the big sort of Uranagi STO thing of her own, just to show that she's of equal power and size to a Lash Legend. We get to the point where Piper tries a crossbody, but Lash Legend is able to catch her.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Oh my God.
And I feel a little bit of a swell in the building for that first point. They've kind of like been given a reason to make any noise, and then even more for the finish. So Piper throws Lash into the corner, goes hits with an avalanche, and then goes for like a sort of Vader bomb type move, but she falls flat, allowing Lash to pick her up. I don't know the name of this move. She's named it previously, but again, I think it was just more as an exhibit. It was not like that power bomb that she's used previously. But she picks her up, she like wraps her in what would be a Samoan drop, but Piper Niven's facing outwards on her back, holds her, like sort of almost like does a bit of a twirl so the fans can see, yep, I'm holding her, I'm carrying, and just drops her flat on her face and gets the win. Like 1, 2, 3, Bianca and Jade are sort of begrudgingly impressed from the crowd. And not a bad showcase, not the first time they've done this with Lash Legend, but not a bad showcase for her and that obvious power that she's got that a lot of the women don't.
Yes, it's just weird.
But fans like the big exhibitions of power. They did come up for that.
They did come up for that, but you know they don't know who she is.
Yeah,
and I was told that it doesn't go like this way in this company. But that's that's just being a dickhead, which I sometimes am, and getting drawn in yet again to those terrible conversations to which we should pay no mind. This was couldn't really you could hear a piss on carton, and then the flow of urine was no longer audible when she did the power moves.
Yeah.
Which were impressive.
Mm-hmm. And they've done
that's all I've got.
Goes down well on NXT. She's done it with Otis, I think it was previously.
Yeah.
It's like she can catch a guy like that. It's like, oh my God.
It speaks to that
something
sort of...
to Lash Legend, I think. You know?
Yeah, it's that sort of... You can't help but be just literally impressed. Yeah. She's impressive. Yeah.
And they've got a win. Maybe they'll get another tag title shot.
Didn't go long, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not much wrestling.
Maybe SmackDown's all right.
It is. And why? Because we go back to Roman and Jimmy. Bored yet? They're in the back, and Jimmy is telling Roman, look, no, don't. No. That's one no yeet. There's always another chance to get a yeet. Go and get it. And Roman's like, no.
Do you like how Roman in these segments with Jimmy, sorry, I'm stepping on your dick.
Sorry.
He seems a bit warmer.
Yeah. It's like, especially I think with what you got in the main event, I'm surprised, considering how well Roman seems to have learned how to protect himself as a top star. Basically, having spent years as the worst pushed one ever.
Yes,
I think he's had to learn the hard way. But post heel turn or 2020, when he pretty much from when he left for the pandemic, that was the first time he took a stand for himself. And he's like, "Oh, this works out amazing. I'm going to take stands all the time." Yeah. Like, this is interesting. I'm surprised and that he's allowing himself to like look a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit weaker. But again, it's, I guess, part of the character, because maybe he's seen what his prior actions have wrought on everything with the Tongans and stuff. So maybe that's part of that. I don't know. But yeah, because he says, again, he's kind of showing warmth to somebody else here, because he says this probably wouldn't be a problem if the wise man was here. And that's the first mention we've had from Roman that he maybe, like, he misses Paul Heyman's input a little bit. But he says he's tried it Jimmy's way, but now he's going to do it his way. Jimmy tries to like needle him for a bit more information, and Roman hints towards the fact that he might just go and acknowledge Solo Sikoa. But we'll get to that in the main event, because in the meantime, we've got Cody Rhodes out to try and
polish a turd.
Yeah,
I tried to go polish a turd.
Like, it was the last time he had to elevate bad material, when he had like that mid-card match on Raw with The Miz. That honestly feels like the last time he was like...
Either that or the last year of his AEW run.
But yeah, all right. But like, I think even then in his mind, what he was doing was gold. It was just nobody else had yet realised that it was shining. He has a sort of a nice couple of moments back and forth with the crowd and says, as this like title is displayed in the ring next to him, he wants to be the first one. He's talking about the importance of first and the importance of matches that you never thought you would get. And he compares him versus Gunther to if Bruno Sammartino had wrestled Harley Race, Nick Bonkwinkle had wrestled Ric Flair.
Bonkwinkle?
Bonkwinkle.
Sounds like if he went into porn.
Or he was featured
Nick
like...
Bonkwinkle.
He was discovered as a bit of a shagger and the Sun are doing the report on him.
Yeah.
Bonkwinkle, more like, well, it would be Cockwinkle, but more like Bonkwinkle.
Bonkwinkle.
Bonkwinkle. Boffin's reckon the Bonkwinkle's bedded up to 50 stunners. This is a bit weird. This was a bit Cody in AEW. He said, Nick Bockwinkel and Ric Flair, Goldberg, Austin, Ray Sammartino. And even when some of those matches did happen, we frequently got clever outs. All right, Code's nice. Clever out, come on. It's
not fake.
It's supposed to be real.
Yeah, it's supposed to be real, bro.
But he says, but Crown Jewel, there will be no clever out. He's promising there's going to be a winner. Cody doesn't want to disparage Gunther. He knows how tough he is and how he's a very worthy world champion, but he's not scared of him. And he would never bet against himself. He wants to win that belt. He wants to win the title. He wanted the John Cena schedule and everything that comes with being a champion. And in his mind, what comes with being a champion in WWE is winning the title like this Saudi monstrosity thing. The real sort of motivation reveals itself as he mentions Liberty, and he says he wants to send her a message that it's not just about being a champion, it's about being the first champion. People remember winners, they don't remember people who simply fought and lost, and he wants to make that point to her. To that end, he wants to find out what it is that Gunther wants this for, because he doesn't believe he wants it as much as he does. He welcomes him to come to SmackDown next week so he can get right in his face and ask what you want to talk about in that way that he does.
He does.
In the way that he does. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be Gunther and Cody face to face again like it was on Raw last week.
Yeah. I don't think this was the best night for Cody Rhodes, who is like just a phenomenal babyface, phenomenal draw. He's great. I feel like they need to caveat that because I'm about to critique him mildly. It's just wrestling has a way, they have to BS people pretty much every single time they're out there. And there's a limit to how much I can take. Everyone else has got their own sort of tolerance for what they can be told. Certainly, as an example, MJF and Cole just can't do this, in my opinion, what they're doing on Dynamite. They can't sort of reboot this program that they're in without it making no sense. This is not as hard a sell, but it was a hard sell. Was it an impossible sell? I don't know. Nothing's really impossible, but the idea that, like, this is, he ostensibly sold this as a big interpromotional, impossible dream match that you're lucky enough to get. It's a load of bollocks. It's a complete load of bollocks. Raw and SmackDown, they're a lot more disciplined than they used to be. What was it, the quarterly brand-to-brand invitational thing that they just made up once upon a time? So it's a little bit more disciplined than that. But it's
the opening segment had Jey Uso in it.
Well, that's my exact point. That's what I was alluding to early in the show. I would not have had Jey Uso just be on the show. Just be on the show, invited, music, a microphone that was, plugged in, like, whatever. I wouldn't have had that on the same show as this. Maybe next week would still have been taking the piss, but it just felt like you cannot sell this as this ultra rare interpromotional dream scenario that you've got. It's the same thing as Survivors. The one night that you see the stars of Raw and SmackDown interact, it's like, well, you've seen it this night, and you've seen it a few other times realistically across Raw and SmackDown this year. It just felt like this week was the wrong week to have Jey Uso. And the circumstances of Jey Uso appearing on SmackDown were quite contrived. Mm-hmm. It just feels like they're speedrunning, as you've put it. And they're not really thinking about it. I thought it was cinema.
Well, I would like films to be shorter in length these days, to be honest. Like, if editors can knock it out in 90 minutes instead of everything going past 2.
Yeah.
I'm kind of game.
That would be ideal, yeah. It was just the wrong week. And you cannot polish this turd. You cannot polish this turd.
It's weird how they're kind of trying to tell 2 separate stories. So you got Cody and Gunther. I quite like the idea, by the way, that Cody is potentially not, he's talking a good game, but he's not really fighting one, because there's other stuff with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton that is that's what's actually distracting him, and Gunther can maybe zero in on that. I do wonder if, like...
He already has.
He already has. I think next week he's going to say something nasty about his daughter, isn't he? You know, when you mention a wrestler's family, even when you mention it positively, they get absolutely raging.
Yeah.
So you can't just say he's probably going to do that next week. And maybe that's a point that can dwell on that Cody doesn't normally reveal a weak point, or not one, like, obviously he'll literally do it in the form of Hell in a Cell with a bruised titty, but he's so brave and strong as a babyface that when he reveals one, he'll still beat you. But maybe this is one of those cases where it's like, you shouldn't reveal the weakness to Gunther. You shouldn't reveal that you're doing this for your daughter, because it's too hard, you're not quite ready for the challenge. But it's just interesting to me that this is the route they're taking with Cody and Gunther. The belt means everything, Cody trying to wrap a story around it. Liv and Nia, they are telling a story, but it's very much like wacky bloody women's division Judgment Day stuff. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the stakes are the same, but they couldn't feel more different if you compare and contrast.
That's
like Liv and Nia are also fighting for one of these
but they're women.
$1 million belts.
They're women.
Yeah.
Yak, yak, yak.
Speaking of yak, Kevin Owens yaks, but he has to do it from home on a little like video camera that he
I
sent.
love Kevin Owens.
Yeah, what a promo this was. It's sent in. It's intentionally underproduced, I guess. It's just like there's this dark background. He's maybe filming in his car for all we know. He's wearing that American...
Better as a result.
Yeah. He's wearing that American Dream Dusty Rhodes t-shirt again that he wore last week. And he talks about, obviously, jumping Cody Rhodes in front of his bus after Bad Blood. He says he's been in WWE for around 10 years now. Loads of ups and downs, but things right now in his life might be as low as it's ever gotten. He's been asked by WWE higher-ups to stay home, and he thinks that's unfair. This is, again, such a great character. Kevin, the one man that always acknowledges the rules of this stupid universe, says... everything we've ever seen, and this is what's keeping me at home. Is it just because I've beaten up your golden boy? Is that why, like, you've asked me to stay home? But he's so used to that kind of nonsense within WWE that he could almost take that. He could almost accept it. But what's really gotten to him here, apart from being, like, questioning his value to WWE at this point, is questioning his value to Randy Orton. It's something that he can't deal with. Randy Orton, in his mind, chose Cody Rhodes over him. He says he never would have done that to Randy. He stops just short of telling him he loves him, kind of like hangs on an L, and then, like, you know, I would just never have done that to you, Randy. He thought that what they had, he says, yeah, and everybody's going to tell you that I turn on all my friends, but I wasn't going to turn on you. What we had was different. WWE don't want me to come back, but with everything going on, I'm not even sure if I want to. And then obviously that's it from Kevin Owens for tonight. We go, I'll just quickly do the follow-up because it kind of relates directly to this. We go then to Randy in the SmackDown GM's office. He wants to talk. He says he doesn't know what the plans are, but after last week, he wants to wrestle Owens at Crown Jewel. But that can't happen because higher-ups beyond the SmackDown general manager have banned Owens from the building. So Randy says, I'm not asking permission, but I understand and I know who I need to talk to. I mean, that's presumably the game Triple H, but yeah, Kevin Owens promo and everything else following on with Randy Orton.
That's the thing, I don't really care about the follow-on. I watched this Kevin Owens promo, and the guy is absolutely incredible at what he does. We're going to talk a lot, I expect, over the coming days and weeks about how I immediately... This has got nothing to do with anything, but it does at the same time. I'm a little bit on the idea of AEW's latest umbrella storyline about how AEW's not that great at the minute and it needs to change or whatever.
Yeah.
So you might, this is ironic, think of me as a hypocrite for praising WWE for doing the same thing almost, but Kevin Owens is so phenomenal, he's so incredible at what he does, that he can do what I really don't like any wrestling promotion doing and going, we're a bit crap, but guess what? That means we're going to change.
Yeah.
Kind of hate it. I just want it to be a good, respectable backdrop to the title programs and the grudge feuds. That's all I want. I don't want to, like, stand up for a wrestling promotion. I don't want the wrestling promotion to be necessarily a character unto itself. But it's just the way wrestling storytelling happens these days. Kevin Owens can do it. Kevin Owens can do anything. That's what I'm getting at here. Kevin Owens can say, oh, it's ridiculous. He can get me to stay away, and yet it happens every single week.
Yeah.
How does he get away with it? Another thing that I hate, other than wrestling promotions saying that we're a bit flawed and we're a bit rubbish, just stop it. Stop being the character. Another thing that I don't necessarily hate this, sometimes it's necessary. I understand why the device is the way the device is. When you hang a lantern on a bad thing to tell you, look, I know it's stupid, but we know too, so you just have to go with it, you know? Yeah. It's like it happens in all manner of storytelling, TV, film, or whatever. Kevin Owens doing it, he's allowed. I let him do this. He's amazing. Him just pointing at, it's stupid, but this is why we're doing it. He can just get away with pretty much everything. His delivery here was utterly phenomenal as well. Like, to his absolute credit, he was doing this under Vince. He doesn't really need to do it that much anymore. But his ability to just feel real in this world is just quite incredible to me. He's one of the very few that pre-Levesque, pre-cinema, I was always able to believe him if I couldn't even believe in the world in which he operated. Now that the world in which he operates is actually quite coherent and like a lot better, he's just reaping the rewards as a character and as a performer. I think he is so good, and I thought that idea for him to beat up Cody in a non-filmed air quote segment was fantastic. I don't necessarily like how it's all leading to either, or Owens versus Orton versus Cody down the line. I'm on that train of Kevin Owens could be such a great heel here, and they've got such a great story brewing with him and Cody. I would do like a little title switch ski. And then put it back on Cody. I think this could be the absolute thing. Orton not involved at all.
I mean, we're going to get there. Like a lot of
the thing.
A lot of the summer's been set up for the Orton heel turn that'll come after all of this.
I just feel like it shouldn't be the hors d'oeuvre.
I quite like. I get your point about like how is it this attack that's getting me punished when everybody attacks? Like there's a backstage brawl later on this very show.
It happens in wrestling, all the time.
It's wrestling every week.
Like the Simon Miller crime counter, I think, is really inspired. It's like, oh, right, it is stupid.
But it was interesting that they were willing and sort of bold enough with Cody to, for the first time ever, have a heel basically calling the Golden Boy in the Pet Project. This was kind of a John Cena staple in the second half of his run as, like, the kind of unstoppable force main event guy. That nobody's ever really said that about Cody Rhodes. It's like you are like a.
It feels earned.
Feels like
him.
Triple H is like done him a solid here when Randy Orton can't get anything done unless he goes to Triple H directly. That sort of suggests that Triple H is doing Cody a favor, and that's the first time they've ever said, she's like, you're protecting your top guy. That's not on, is it? And I think that's a bold thing to do. You must have a lot of faith in Cody as the over babyface to
especially. Sorry, I know I just stepped on your dick again. Especially with how people have taken to this Owens thing.
Yeah. Well, and the next test is Kevin Owens as a heel. It is perfectly placed if you're going to have Roman in a babyface bloodline. Because he's the one guy that cannot fathom that. You're joking. It's yous that have changed, not me. I fought these men for years, and now Sami Zayn is going to join the bloodline probably at War Games. And if you're Kevin Owens, you just sat at home kicking your telly, how have I lost somehow? And he could run in. There's a good chance he screws Cody against Gunther possibly as well. So
I love that, just that resigned deadpan. Everything's so stupid or unfair. He just can play it to a complete T. Kevin Owens.
It's I don't know if this is a bad thing because I think the execution of them have been fantastic so far. But this is becoming a Triple H trope, isn't it? The heel that has loads of ammo for why they're right. So the Drew McIntyre is the success story. You sense one of these days when you get the thing you're after, the CM Punk heel turn, they'll lean on that. Because he was always very good at that anyway.
Characterization's very, 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 very strong. They no longer feel like, well, it's my turn to be heel. I'm getting still as a babyface, or the babyface sort of side of the roster's a bit stacked, so I'll go heel. Just never. It always feels like they are fleshed out characters with interior lives, and like a memory, and the continuity is always tremendous. Just if the wrestling was fantastic.
Well, I can't give you that next, but I can give you some okay action because it's the second triple threat tag match, and it was I unashamedly great to see the Motor City Machine Guns on WWE, but this was not hot, right? It was just nice. I don't know, you can't really call it a Legends run, but it is still weird to me that wrestlers that have had full ass careers. This is like a sort of contemporary version of Sting getting a run out in WWE, and they've actually signed a full-time contract and they're going to be here every week. It's still got that novelty appeal. But we can't sit here and lie on a podcast and say they got a massive reaction because they didn't. I don't know what their motivation was to change it from the surprise. They dropped a promo earlier on in the day, so it was just out front that they were going to be working the show. Everybody knew it was them anyway. But ultimately, at least, I will say, while the action was only okay, the match was agented with the best intention to get them over if you've never seen before. So maybe you've got to be patient with how these arenas are going to take to the Guns. I don't know, because it was Motor City Machine Guns versus A-Town Down Under and Los Garza, and ultimately all the big set pieces in the match were set up for the Guns to do their awesome, timeless double teams. Corey Graves got the line in. He said they're your favourite tag team's favourite tag team. And it did put across, you can see these as inspiration. You can infer that they were clearly inspirational figures.
You can, but these WWE fans don't like to infer from what I hear.
They're not young.
Like to be told.
They're not young men.
Everything needs to be explained.
Well, yeah, they're not young wrestlers. So what would be this when we were younger? Would it be Ric Flair? Is that a wild comparison? We had to be told as kids,
it's a big deal.
Ric Flair's like Hogan level.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy. And then he was class.
Yeah.
But you first sight of him, it's like...
It just felt wrong.
He's an old fella.
Yeah.
He's wearing a dressing gown. And he was goated, so it was fine. But there's an element of that. And then, so when you've got, again, it's a three-way tag thing, so there's always movement, which really helps the Guns. They do, before you go to the first commercial break, SmackDown rolls on, the spot is the one where... Shelley, they do the loads of baseball slides, and then Shelley stands sort of legs open the ropes so Sabin can dive through, and that was what takes you to the break. The Guns are on top, all this sort of thing. And we get to the finish ultimately where A-Town Down Under and Los Garza have kind of identified that the Guns are a threat, and it's there trying to neutralise them. But each time the Guns are able to do the quick tags and get back in and take back over. And it takes us to Angel and Berto both have Alex Shelley. And they do a double snake eyes, but then Angel tries to kick Grayson Waller, and because they're divvied up, that allows the Motor City Machine Guns back into the match. You get the awesome, still class, may as well be against Speed Muscle, so fast at doing it, the dream sequence. So just the flurry of kicks and run the ropes, and he gets them in the camel clutch, and he drop kicks there. I think it was, I want to say it was Berto to the face, maybe, with the running basement.
No one will remember.
Yeah, but you know the spot. Everybody knows seen the Guns. Incredible spot. Ultimately, Sabin and Shelley have got the ring. They Sabin tags Shelley back in. They do their skull and bones, the neck breaker into the slam, and get the win. So it's going to be the Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY for number one contenders to the tag titles. I might even be next week. But yeah, they've kind of set that one up already as the big showcase match for the Guns in a normal setting rather than this triple threat one.
Got a lot of thoughts here, so I'm going to be all over the place. Very tired today as well, guys. I'm quite sorry.
My recaps stink. I'm so sorry.
No, you're going to do way better than I'm.
Speed, man,
you're going to do way better doing this than I'm going to do on Collision. I'm actually dreading it.
And we got all the match keys.
I just had a very, very busy weekend of tidying and stuff to do, so I'm very sorry. Hopefully I'll be back on it more tomorrow. So I'm going to be rambling here, even more so than usual. A lot of thoughts. One, the backstage segment where it's not necessarily my take. A lot of people have said it already, but I agreed, so I'm going to reiterate, echo, whatever. Putting them in the backstage segment with Aldous where they looked really short.
Nightmare.
Was a nightmare.
Rhino.
Yeah. That.
Why is Rhino little now?
Yeah, why is Rhino little? A little bit like that. So I thought, I don't know if that was deliberate and a little bit CUNTY, but it happened and it wasn't particularly good. So they come out and they get no pap whatsoever. You can hear the hairdryer. It's all a bit depressing. But they should have seen this coming. These sort of cryptic-y vignettes don't really work unless there's a promise of horror or Wyatt-adjacent stuff. Doing the sort of cryptic, it never really works. I don't know how you do it, or if you just have to sort of suck it up, knowing what the fan base is like. Suck it up, debut them to crickets. Hopefully they get over.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a problem. WWE is in the position now where it doesn't need to have a shot on the arm, a new act, and you really want the audience to like them immediately. They don't have to do that whatsoever. Because they are absolutely white hot with the way that they build the characters as opposed to debut the characters, which is a much better position to be in. Yeah. A much, much better position to be in. So maybe with the way the fan base is right now, and I'll get onto that briefly, imminently, this is always just going to be a ho-hum week, and the real quiz will follow. I've told the story before. I'll tell it again because it bears repeating, and it's especially relevant in this case here. I just was... And again, it's not a bad thing, this, and I'm not saying it to bury WWE fans. I've met so many nice ones when we've been on our travels, and we've been privileged to do that, but it's just an observation. AEW fans know more or enjoy more about outside wrestling than WWE fans. I think that is a fact. It's not that much of the case anymore. If it were, CMLL is meant to be the hot league, and you get talent from CMLL in AEW, as we've seen lots this year, and they never really get a huge pop.
Yeah.
They get a great reaction in the matches because I think AEW fans are more receptive to the actual in-ring, but in terms of that instant recognizable pop, doesn't really happen. But it happens more often in AEW, and I think it's a cultural thing within the respective fan bases. When I was at the Raw after WrestleMania, the person sitting next to me was so handsome, by the way. Oh, it was Adam Nicholas, our producer. I was, Shinsuke Nakamura came out first, and I'm thinking, all right, okay, debut klaxon alert, because he's not a strong enough or pushed enough performer to be the star of a match. Oh, they're doing a debut from NXT. Ilya Dragunov comes out, and he is, in fact, a debut to absolute crickets, and it's not as if he's wrestling for, He's
just come from WXW.
WXW, Deadlock Pro.
Got the belt on stuff.
MLW.
Right?
He's in NXT. He's in NXT, and he gets nothing. Absolutely nothing. He gets a little bit towards the end of the match, but I distinctly remember he comes out, I think he does some Germans, and there are WWE fans, arms folded, go on, impress me, who's this? And he does those intense faces and does a few Germans, and I hear someone a few rows in front of me going, "Oh, what does this guy think? He's Kurt Angle?" Now that's distinct. That's going to stay with me forever. Who's this guy? He's ripping off Kurt Angle. Who is this guy? And it's again, this doesn't matter for WWE.
And he's over now.
He's over now.
Yeah.
This doesn't matter for WWE. They are in an absolutely incredible position. And given that Cena and The Rock and all the rest of it, WrestleMania, they will be for at least a calendar year. Yeah. So I'm sorry, AEW fans, you might be finished for another year. We'll see. That mentality seems to be the almost natural byproduct of WWE conditioning people for years and years and years. WCW's inferior. That AEW's a piss-and company. I know it was different for Cody, but there are exceptions to most rules. And this explains for me the reaction to Motor City Machine Guns. It's not just because of the type of wrestling they do either, I don't think. It's they've been trained and conditioned. Everyone else is lesser than.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of WWE debuts, it's not specific or personal even to Motor City Machine Guns. They've cultivated a fan base that doesn't accept what WWE perceives to be any imitators or lesser than.
Business metrics support it when WWE's hot.
Yeah.
Nothing else thrives when WWE's hot. It's the opposite.
So I don't think this is personal towards Motor City Machine Guns. I don't think it was a huge disgrace. It's just the way of things. They don't come from here. Therefore, because WWE fans have been conditioned to think you're not a star unless you make it in WWE, because they obviously haven't made it in WWE, because it's their first night in WWE, they're not going to get the star reaction. And again, as a business model, it works wonders for them.
The big leagues, kid.
Yeah, it's the big leagues, and they look like minor leaguers to them. I will say that here's another problem. And again, I'd like to think that there's a lot more substance to the Motor City Machine Gun still, and in fact, I know there is. Poor Chris Sabin in particular was doing some great guns on Impact, but who's going to want to watch that? No offense, other than their really small niche, super committed fan base. He's doing some great career work, but just toiling in relative obscurity, which is what TNA is now. Another thing was, I thought Corey Graves did a great job of that line. It's your favorite tag team's favorite tag team, which basically told you a lot with few words, which I thought was really clever. What he couldn't say, and what is damning about, we talk a lot about the stylistic, the homogenized style in pro wrestling right now. Corey Graves couldn't say, those moves that they're doing right now that pretty much everyone does all the time. They helped pioneer those moves. So be impressed. Everybody else is just ripping them off.
You know why you bored of some of the matches? Well, these bored you first.
Yeah. Okay. That's because it's just a derivation of what you're saying right now. You can't say that, even though it's true. Basically, what I'm getting at is the Motor City Machine Guns have been ripped off, plagiarized, or they've inspired so many acts that... Hello, one of our soundproof things has just fallen off. We'll just move past that very quickly. It's you cannot say that, even though it's a salient point. It's hard to be impressed by what the Motor City Machine Guns do now, even though a lot of it is them. So that's a bit of a shame for them. Maybe they've come to WWE too late, or maybe it's not just moves and they'll get over with their personalities and just they seem like two of the cooler dudes. And hopefully that all translates in their future performances. So that's my take on why it was rat piss on cotton stuff. One more take. That's really funny in a perverse way. is that right? There's usually like Corey Graves had a good call, but they did the thing that they always do when there's a new team. What do we say to try and get them over? I will say something to the effect of, "All right, okay, well, they've been dominating across the globe, guys. They've been great in Japan. They've been dominating across the globe. That's their shorthand for they've wrestled loads of other places for a few years.
Yeah.
That's why you're meant to care about them, if you even can be bothered." I know it's sort of Joe Hendry hasn't been on NXT for a while, but I mean, someone from the Rascals just worked, less than 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You are partnering with TNA Wrestling as we speak, right? You are in a working relationship with TNA right now. Can you not just say the legends of TNA?
Yeah.
And you've been impressed by Joe Hendry. You've been impressed by Jordan Grace. You've been impressed by...
Well, you've had the Rascals up.
The Rascals.
Yeah, they've got
Rosemary.
Yeah.
They've had Hammerstone. Mm-hmm. You've been impressed by all these great TNA wrestlers. These are the TNA legends, and they're coming to WWE, and they've been dominated across the globe. You're taking the pace.
Are you telling me, Sidge, that a company...
Was TNA mentioned once during this?
I think it was once. Are you suggesting, carefully, I don't know if you necessarily want to put your name to this, that WWE have established a working relationship with an organisation, and it's not going to go well for that other organisation?
Hey, that's you putting words in my mouth. I did not. You said that. I didn't say anything of the sort.
I can never imagine a time when that would have happened. Not well, wrestling entertainment. You must be thinking of a different organisation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's already going that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace are going to be in the Royal Rumbles, and then we'll never hear the letters again. We got what we wanted.
Well, I'm not saying that. You're
See you
saying
later,
it.
TNA.
You just said that.
I say it, and I feel it, and I believe it. And I only care a little bit as well. That's the other reality. It's TNA's never going away. I can feel assured that TNA will always be there.
I thought you were going to say, I feel like they should. But I said, I feel assured.
I like them around.
You don't care about them.
I don't care about them one single bit, but I like them around because every now and then a wrestler gets over and then it's like, one day you might come to the big leagues, kid. Speaking of big leagues, more big league tag team action. It's Candice LeRae and Nia Jax versus Bayley and Naomi.
Stop me now. I can't remember a single thing that happened in this match.
It's because it was meaningless. Actually, right, to be absolutely fair, right, to the point about, right, the Guns have just arrived, no reaction, not really over, can they get over? Somehow that is still the case for Candice LeRae, really. Just a bunch of stop-start pushes. She's been with the company a gazillion years, but never, when
did she turn up?
What, first time in WWE? 2017, I think. That's insane, isn't it?
It's nearly 8 years.
Yeah. It's
nearly that warrior to warrior. That Warrior Hogan comparison.
Yeah. And even then, it's NXT stuff rather than...
Jesus Christ, girl.
Rather than main roster stuff, which is never taken. But this might be something. Something has emerged. It's one of those words I like, isn't it? Something might have emerged here. So, yeah.
It has emerged.
With Tiffany Stratton off, well, we'll see. They might just get bored of it. It's a women's division. Tiffany Stratton off sick. Candice LeRae basically has stepped in. And at first... Nia Jax just wants to take control over it. She doesn't really think she can trust her for one thing, but then Candice LeRae gets in and actually she has a little bit of domination over Bayley and Naomi, but then Bayley and Naomi have got that chemistry together, so they are able to ultimately take over. There's some pretty cool stuff with Naomi able to get the advantage over Nia Jax a couple of times. That's obviously building up to her getting the next shot at Nia Jax's title match at a destination to be confirmed, I guess, because it's Nia and Liv Morgan at Crown Jewel, but she's the number one contender at the title as and when they decide to do that singles match. Candice manages to get back in and, again, dominate as we go through the commercial break. But then we come back and the babyfaces have got control again. They both do, snap moves on opposite sides of the ring. Naomi to Nia Jax, Bayley to Candice LeRae. And then it's Bayley that goes to the... floor, and it's by Indy Hartwell, who up to this point has just stood there as, Candice LeRae's support. And she... is the first one to turn heel, if you want to go. She pushes Bayley into the post, rolls her back in, and Candice LeRae immediately hits the lion salt and pins her. 1, 2, 3, and actually gets the win. And Nia Jax seems begrudgingly quite pleased with their contributions. It's weird, right? But I am now thinking the Tiffany Stratton thing is a total work, and this wasn't just a nice 1 week solution. They might have just tried to do one of them out of thin air pushes. And Candice LeRae might be onto something here. They're putting her in the orbit of the world champion. Nia Jax already has Naomi as a challenger, Liv at Crown Jewel.
Of course, I remember this.
And the constant threat of Tiffany Stratton with the Money in the Bank. Like, this is what I'm talking about with SmackDown. It's better than Raw for the women's division at the moment. There are little stories and little crumbs of character.
It's better than Raw. Most things are.
I'm speaking specifically about the women's division of the Bloodline. Do not come for Raw, Sidge. Yeah. So I don't mind this as again. It's that tiny little bit of character development for Candice LeRae. Might come to nothing.
I've been here before, and they've completely don't care. They don't care. I can't remember the match, mate.
She turned heel on Maxine Dupree that time, and then has turned babyface since to facilitate her turning heel here.
Yeah,
that's all been in the space of like 6 months, so it might go nowhere. But no more thoughts on that. No,
I can't remember it.
Right, you are.
I can't remember it. I watched this on Saturday morning, Monday afternoon, and it's a nice little shorthand sheet code to reviewing a match. How good could it be if you can't remember it? That's just my subjective memory. Maybe people can remember this move for move, and it meant a lot to them. Me personally, I watched this on Saturday morning. I had a long old weekend.
Well, I know what you're thinking.
I can't remember the match. I can't remember the bout. Well,
there's only sort of at this point, I would say about 20 minutes left of the SmackDown, and there's no matches left. So hard yards are over with. Get to the good stuff.
Here's I forgot to do the noise, didn't I?
Yes.
Motor City Machine Guns. I was like, that was the. Maybe in a few matches' time, we'll really get to see them. Oh, shh. Now I'm going to swear.
Thank you.
I had another complaint.
Oh, okay.
I had another complaint. You ready for this? I don't think Levesque, with his cinema, his stories, gets anywhere near enough criticism for this. Just do triple threat matches in tournaments.
Yeah.
He does it all the time,
all
right?
The time.
One, it's really redundant. That's one of the reasons why the matches are never memorable. It's so, written on the back of a beer mat booking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should be able to get away with it. I think if you're a fan of WWE and you're discerning, I'm a dickhead, but I'm not so much of a dickhead where I'm like these morons just like entrances and catchphrases. I'm really not that. I'm really not that.
Online,
it's bad crap that. But at the same time, I do think be a bit more discerning because this is not really good enough or creative enough or entertaining enough.
Doesn't make it for hot TV. And that's what you watch WWE for at the moment.
Yeah, and it's just I think he does it so often. He's done it with the Intercontinental title one recently. He does it for the Money in the Bank qualification. I think
he did it. Yeah, all the qualifiers. But I think the reason
he's done it at least 3 times this year.
I think the reason for that is he likes it as where the two losers or whatever. There's always feuds that come out of those matches between the losers.
Everything's a storytelling device.
True. Yeah.
Everything's a storytelling device. So I don't.
It's still a shortcut.
Yeah, it's still a shortcut. I don't like how it always happens in and of itself. It's very repetitive. It's very lazy. Also, was within a few minutes. Yes, they were highlighted in the match. Within a few minutes, because it just feels like every other match. I don't think it did the Motor City Machine Guns in terms of them standing out and feel like a big deal. It just felt like they were part of the furniture already.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think which again could
got a criticism of WWE. Then I'm sorry.
It could be a problem with the Guns as an act. Maybe that they wouldn't have had that they being WWE wouldn't have had with something like the Lucha Brothers. Like there was something.
It doesn't feel red carpety.
No, but then at this point with the moves, the Guns can't. Again, I think the moves have got to get over, and the Guns have got to hope that's what works. And that it is DIY next week. It's also next week, and I look forward to previewing this with you. The 7th and potentially final match between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, Adam Wilborn's feud of the year.
He's such an arsehole, man. The amount of matches in that style broadly that are done much better in AEW, and he's like, move on from this. It's the initials of the company.
Well,
I see a match like this 3 times a week in AEW.
Yes. I've quite liked this series for both guys because they were 2 big balls, and now I'm kind of into them.
Is he a dog? Well, we know this, he is.
Yeah, he's a hound. But no, I think this has been good for them in the same way it was good for Sheamus and Cesaro. You hear they're doing 7. You're frigging joking. I don't want to watch this. And then it's mainly about those few little spots, those few little details they've taken. You've seen the wrestlers learn from this. It's best of 7 booking, the proper best of 7 booking, not just 7 matches. But that could, I don't know, fall apart next week because they've both won different matches in the series to get a shot at LA Knight, lost the match to LA Knight, and then the series has continued. And then next week, LA Knight will be the guest referee for the last one because they're supposed to be having a promo segment with Byron Saxton, but because they just hate each other at this point, that breaks into a fight, and that's why LA Knight's made the guest ref. So we'll get your predictions on the preview later this week.
Oh God, I hate it. It'll be good. It'll be a good listen.
It will. Roman Reigns, speaking of good listens, is in the ring next. Gets this massive reaction as you would expect. Huge OTC chants. They must mean OTJ, but they must have known that Will Bomb was on holiday, so they'll go with OTC for the time being. Gets the crowd to acknowledge him, but then says, look, this might be the last time we do that. Solo Sikoa comes out.
Keen.
But he's alone. And he says, what does he say? So, he grabs the mic, but then Roman says, look, the family is stronger now. The bloodline is stronger now. Like, you've kind of surprised people. But
never win.
but nothing is really telling. Like, despite everything that you're saying, everything that you're doing, it doesn't feel to me like the family is better off. We're divided, we're broken up, kind of echoing what Jey Uso had said, which again sort of brings them all on the same page, and they realise it's that kind of stuff. But because of everything they've gone through and everything they've lost, which I thought this was nice, by the way. He did say after everything that's happened in the spring, the world title, and everything that they've lost over the summer. And then he goes on to say, I made a promise to my father that I would fix all of this. That's quite profound, really. He's like, you could just make this about the WWE title if you wanted. And he said, like, look, we've lost elders.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to say it, but the idea is like the Samoan dynasty is maybe not as strong as it was, so it's quite important that we pull this back together.
Yeah.
And he's trying to appeal to like Solo's humans.
I did like that touch.
And because of that, he wants to keep his promises and he will acknowledge Solo Sikoa. Does that make Solo feel better? But Solo says that's not enough. You can't just acknowledge me. I should have had that all along. I want you to acknowledge me as the tribal chief. And then he says, acknowledge me as the tribal chief or else. And Roman's just...
Or else what?
Or else what? His face is all bubbling and he's doing that thing where he can do with his I don't know, he does that like seems like little veins go through his cheeks and he's sort of like his jaw dislocates itself, whatever. Solo uses that as another way to score a point around saying, look, I knew you couldn't
His facials
change.
went bad.
Yeah.
He did something that wasn't useless, did Solo Sikoa?
I knew it. I absolutely knew it. Basically, he's saying this. It's a gotcha. It's a gotcha. I knew you couldn't change. And if you can't change, I'm not going to change era. Snaps his fingers, and the Tongans and Jacob Fatu appear on the ramp. They've got Jimmy Uso. They've kicked his ass back behind the scenes. Very similar in the way that shortly before WrestleMania, The Rock, remember him kicking Jay's ass, like, and they dragged him out. It's all happened.
I remember.
Off camera. And obviously, while Roman's distracted, he tries to fight back, but the numbers game is too great. There's a really cool moment where he gets into it with Jacob. They've been so careful about the Jacob and Roman physicality. So there's that little tease of something that
I want to see Jacob versus everybody.
Yeah, you feel like there's real money there. But ultimately, the bloodline overwhelming once again. Even the Guerrillas of Destiny, just are able to crowd him, beat him down. Jacob Fatu hits him with a DDT, and then Solo hits him with 2 Samoan spikes. Roman is down and out as SmackDown goes off the air.
Solo Sikoa was quite good here.
Yeah.
I actually got something out of him. And Roman Reigns is very, very, very good. That, or else what? That booming voice. I like how it puts over the Ulafala and the idea that this power corrupts is that he still has that Roman Reigns in him.
You need a bit of arrogance.
Yeah, you need a bit of arrogance, but like it just tells you that this isn't just a very simple story of, I mean, it is a simple story. It's soap opera, sub-soap opera at that.
I thought you were going to say so popular there, and it's a soap opera. It's so popular.
Well, it is.
I love it.
But it isn't entirely predictable. You get the sense that this Roman Reigns character is still susceptible to being corrupted. He's still split, maybe. He still wants that title and all the power that comes with it, rather than he wants no one to have it. So Solo might have a point. Put it this way, the many Bloodline essayists would have a field day with this. I didn't have a field day. I'll stay at home. But
have a stay-at-home day.
put it this way, the Bloodline stuff, while contrived, was really quite strong, I thought. And there's Kevin Owens is great, and Cody, despite having an off week, is usually great. My big takeaway from this show is about on Friday night, I got in from work. I'll miss work, but I'll have a nice weekend, hopefully. And then, no. I've got to bloody do SmackDown 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
with Will Bourne. Yeah, with Will Bourne. I'm not dreading it as much as I was.
Oh, there you go.
Before I watched this episode, because there's some strong stuff on there.
It's
Jacob Fatu's amazing.
The Bloodline and Cody, it's kind of what keeps a lot of this show afloat, as you may be seen by some of the mid and the undercard. But yeah, those are our thoughts on SmackDown and the Bloodline cinema and all that sort of good stuff.
We'll do it again at the end.
No, we don't. You're very welcome.
Well,
Good choice, Sidgwick. Good editorial decision. Just give him a little blast more of it.
So what did SmackDown have on it this week?
Right. Thanks, Dad. It had Roman Reigns acknowledging Solo Sikoa, but it's still going wrong for him. It had Jey Uso making a special guest appearance. That's right. It had the debut of the Motor City Machine Guns, and it had Kevin Owens revealing that he is not welcome in WWE at present.
So it had all this and so much more.
And we will see you soon.